Hello and welcome to What's Underfoot, the American Home Services Group and Commercial USA podcast, where we sit down with people supporting, shaping, and moving the floor covering industry forward. Each of these conversations is designed to get to know an industry leader and provide insight into leadership and success that our members can apply to their business in order to build a stronger, smarter business. Today, I'm joined with Maksim Nazarchuk. He is the founder and owner of Modern Estimates. But Maxim, before we begin our conversation, maybe you could share something about yourself that most people don't know.
Well, first of all, Tony, thank you so much for having me on. It's a honor and pleasure. Um, I think there's quite a few things, but one that probably is not very evident just by looking at me. I enjoy singing. I love singing. That's my passion outside of work. So I actually lead a worship group in our church, and I'm actually the organizational leader for all of the worship groups in our church as a result of my passion for that. And I'm a big car singer. If you ever drive past me, if you ever down in Washington and happen to drive past me, don't be surprised if you see me singing. I'm a big car singer.
Interesting. So I will share this with you. So now you're our second interviewee or participant in our podcast who sings. I actually interviewed one. We'll post it shortly. He actually was a trained singer. That's what he studied in college. It's vocal performance, I think he said. So that's very interesting. Well, very good. Well, we're certainly glad you're with us. Let me give you a more formal introduction now. So Maxim Nazarchuk is the founder or president of Modern Estimates, the company behind Measure, an AI-powered virtual estimating platform. Maxim also founded and operated Modern Flooring Services for 6 years, a service installation service company based in Seattle that operated in 5 states, had over 200 crews. Currently resides in Seattle with his wife Alina and their 3 children, Victoria, who's 13, Jason, who's 9, and Abigail, who is 4 years old. We're glad you're with us, Maxim. And I'm interested to hear, how you got into the flooring industry. We all have a story to tell, and I wonder, when that was for you, what it looked like, and what you were doing when you first got into the floor covering industry.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a common story. Um, a lot of people are shocked to find out when I tell it, but I discovered flooring or construction, I should say, and then flooring specifically accidentally. You could say I was pushed into it kind of by life events and discovered that I had a bigger passion for it than my passion at the time. So my background's actually in medical field. It was ever since childhood. I wanted to be a dentist. That was my dream to become a dentist, have my own practice, and go that route. And that's the direction I was headed. Finished high school, did an early start program that we have here in Washington. Basically, after 10th grade, went to college. Graduated from that, went on to graduate from pre-medical school, then dental assisting school, and went into hygiene. But one faithful summer, my mom was going to Ukraine. That's where I'm originally from, and it was a summer break for me. I actually wanted to take the summer course to finish early. I was very zealous, and I was pursuing that goal. And my professor at that time actually refused to give me a recommendation for at least for the private school that I was going to. Summer course was not a requirement. It wasn't kind of like a punitive thing if you're failing. It was actually a privilege, and you had to get a recommendation to actually be part of it. And my professor told me, "Look, Maxim, you're still young. You're working way too hard. You need to take a break for the summer. It's not going to set you back too far. So I'll give you a glowing recommendation only if you take the break for the summer." So I found myself with not much going on. My mom's going to Ukraine. I haven't been back there since I was 10. So about 10 years at that time, I haven't been back. So I figured, hey, why not? I went to Ukraine, not suspecting anything. Ended up meeting my now wife, Alina. Fell in love. Kind of fast forwarding through some of the story. Ended up getting married. Stayed in Ukraine while the documents were being processed to bring her over to the States. We had a daughter in Ukraine, our oldest, Victoria. So ended up staying there for 3 years. While all that was going on, couldn't work in the medical field there because their medical approach to medical field and licenses and certificates are a lot different. So none of that transferred over. So I found myself needing to do something. I have to support my family. So my uncle in Ukraine has a fairly big construction company, heavy construction company. So what we did is build big government buildings like theaters and multifamily apartment buildings. We're talking 15 stories plus type buildings. So from ground up, oversaw that construction. He also, along with that, had kind of a final mile delivery company for the construction side of things. So gravel, sand, all that stuff. Big heavy machinery. He bought it, resold it. That's what I was introduced to construction. And from the first time when I oversaw one of the projects with him, I started actually as a sweeper of just garages. He didn't know what I was capable of, but he's a good uncle, tough, but very good. I said, hey, let's see what you can start with. If you can sweep, we can go from there. So I started sweeping the garages. Not a year passed when I actually became his VP of operations and oversaw the construction and operation of the two companies that kind of joined. And the first project, when we completed it, throughout it, as anybody in the construction industry can attest, when the projects are going on, there's many times where you feel like, man, what did I get myself into? This is the last one. I will never do this again. But once it was done and I saw the project completed and looking at that theater that we built in the city of Lutsk, Ukraine, where I'm from, I just kind of got this flash of the entire history. I can't explain it in just kind of a couple of seconds from the beginning towards the end and all the hurdles we had to overcome and then seeing the end result felt like it felt like summiting a mountain. You're tired throughout, but once you get to the top, it was so worth it. And I fell in love with it. Every bit of it, and the whole process made it worth it. And I discovered that that's really what I want to do. Now, fast forwarding, uh, uh, when we came back to US, I wasn't expecting to get back into construction here, though it is something that I was extremely passionate for at that time. I first went back to our professors, to the board, medical board for certificates, seeing maybe I'll go that route. I already had that door open. Didn't know anything about construction in US. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of similar, but still somewhat different. Well, the news that I got back is all your certificates and licenses are lapsed too long, so you need to reschool. We're talking about 2.5 year minimum. I came back with a family. I need to support them. I'm not from a wealthy background, so got to get to work. I said, well, my younger brother finished high school at that time, and I said to myself, well, let's just start a business. Let's start something close to construction to get introduced to it and see where it goes from there. So we started a delivery company, final mile delivery company, and our biggest client were, ironically, just by happenstance, flooring stores. Those were the ones that needed a lot of the deliveries because, unlike other construction materials, as those in the flooring industry know, hardwoods, things like that, need to acclimate. So there was the biggest need for timely delivery, and that's what we got into. And that's when I was introduced to the flooring industry. Got to know a lot of the local players, and about a year into running that delivery company, we had an opportunity to open a installation company. Got to meet some of the players, installers, shop owners, and we said, why not? Let's give it a shot. Let's see where it goes. And one project after another, it was working out fantastic. A year into it, we won a pretty big contract with a national company. And by the end, we ended up with 5 states, being one of their biggest, not the biggest, but one of the biggest vendors, running 5 states, overseeing a crew of over 200 contractors and installers, kind of a mix.
Wow, that's a roundabout entrance into the floor covering industry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll share I actually came from a family. My father was a dentist,
Oh,
so
right on.
I had no interest in going into that profession, I will say. And I won't get into it now, but I do have a connection with Ukraine. My mother had traveled there, and I'll tell you that story sometime offline. But it's a very interesting story. But look, obviously it worked out well for you to go back, find a wife. That's fantastic, right? And now you're end up in Seattle and family is there. That's really great. And very interesting, kind of an introduction into the flooring through a delivery service, Final Mile, and obviously, yeah, the need for getting product on site prior to, installation because of acclimation and so forth. So very interesting, kind of set the stage a little bit knowledge, a little more knowledge of, some of the products that get installed and some of the unique characteristics of those. But um, that's very interesting. Well, um, as you look back then over this course of time, next question is really about, influencers and mentors. I would have to believe your uncle is probably one of those, right? But maybe whether somebody really influenced you, you want to share, kind of what impact, who that individual is, what impact they have had on you as you've kind of established yourself in a career and business, and if there's any specific, advice that they've given you.
Yeah, most definitely. And Tony, you've hit it spot on. The biggest one is my uncle, but I do have to give credit to my professor who caused this whole ruckus. And in the beginning, it was a little bit disappointing, but I'm so grateful that she insisted, and I ended up where I am. I don't regret a second of it. I'm very blessed to be where I am. But my uncle, I would say, and I've had many people that have shaped me who I am today. I'm fairly early on in my career, but I've been blessed to meet very, very fantastic and top-notch individuals that I look to for inspiration as kind of examples what to be and what not to be.
Hmm.
Some people know that I look up to them, some don't. But my uncle has played a very huge role in shaping my business approach to life. He, as I mentioned earlier, was or is, he's still alive and does well. He's a very tough person, but in a loving way. He's very much a firm believer in tough love, but he knows how to toe the line very well. And he would always tell me this when I would come up to him and say, his name is Andre. So, and I just referred to him by his first name. So I would say, Andre, I've never done this. I have no idea where to start. And he is the type of guy, he'll throw you in, and if you want to survive, you'll swim. He'll help you if you're already sinking, but that's the first reaction. So he would give these. He would call up one morning and say, "Hey, Maxim, we'll have partners coming by, and they want to start a project in Poland, of all places. I don't speak Polish. It's fairly similar to Ukraine if they talk very slowly, but I don't speak Polish. I don't know the laws of Poland. They want to do a project. So can you get started on the negotiation portion? This is my first, not my first management of a project, but kind of a first overlook and just figure it out. And I would tell him like, I've never done this before. I don't know where to even begin. I don't know what to say, what not to say. We're talking millions of dollars on the line. This is terrifying. And he would always tell us, me and the rest of the crew is, look, if you haven't tried, And if you haven't shown, if you can't show me three ways you tried, don't tell me you can't do it. You just haven't tried. That's the only kind of difference. And so he would always challenge us. Look, if you don't know how to do something, try. And if you fail, bring me your failure and we'll go over it together, see where you went wrong, but you have to try. Until you try, you can't tell me you can't do it. You just haven't tried. So it created this kind of a mindset of, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'll fail, but at least I've tried. And that pushed me into where I am today. A lot of things that we started were kind of daunting at first. And you look at some of the things you want to do. And, you know, anytime you start a business, you think, well, if it was a good idea, somebody would have done it. Take, for example, modern estimates and the platform measure, and you have titans in the industry. But we have this mentality of, well, let's try and see where it goes. And that has served us very well.
That's interesting. That's a good approach. I can relate to that. I often say you can't break it, right? You're not so try, and I've encouraged, employees in the past the same thing. You're not going to break it. So try, and then we'll evaluate what the outcome is. So yeah, that is good advice. Interesting. You've touched on challenges and setbacks and failure and so forth, and which we all experience one degree or another. And I wonder if you can share, maybe a significant setback, um, that you faced that, or even failure, maybe a little bit describe what happened, but more importantly, what was the, how did you find a positive outcome as a result? I think that's what we all want to know is, hey, we all fail, but what do we learn? How do we take away a positive from, challenges or even failures that we have?
So I think the biggest one that I'd like to share is kind of my origin story for flooring in general. I was very passionate about the medical field, extremely so. And when I ended up staying in Ukraine, though it was by choice, things changed quite a bit. The length of time that we stayed there wasn't by choice, though. That was kind of happenstance. But I was a firm believer in staying with the family, so I didn't go back to US to wait for my family here. I stayed there and made do with what I had. But it was difficult for quite a bit of time. It was difficult to get used to something that initially I never saw myself participating in, construction specifically. That's something that to me at that time looked very daunting, very much completely the opposite of where I want to go. So when that reality looked me in the face, that medical, at least for the foreseeable future, is not an option, and I have to find another option. And the only option staring me in the face that's possible, because I don't have any more contacts, is the thing that I really did not want to do. It was difficult, but fast forward going through that, what it taught me, and a big lesson that I take from that is when you don't allow the life events to shape you, you retain who you are as a person and adopt quickly to the life events. It might not seem like it in the moment when you're going through it, but you will be fine. As long as you adopt and don't let them destroy you, essentially.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And, I think that's that's advice we can all apply in small doses daily when, you stub your toe on this or that thing, or even larger, setbacks that we go through. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm curious, obviously you're probably pretty busy with a startup business and young family, but when you step away from work, are you able to disconnect, or is there something that you do that, that helps you reset or recharge and refocus?
I would say that's the most important ability and quality, if you can call it that, that a business owner could have, is to be able to disconnect, recharge, and reset. I think too many businesses, most businesses probably failed. Aside from all the other things that can happen, is the people that ran them just simply burn out. And the reason they burn out is they can't disconnect. From the days of when I was my uncle's VP, he was a very big believer in work-life balance. And he's the person that when you go home, he does not call you about business work. He would always say, work is not a wolf, it won't run away. It'll be here tomorrow. It's a Ukrainian saying, sounds a little better in Ukrainian, but so we had a certain amount of time to complete our tasks, and that's what we had. And we were encouraged to end work at work. Home is home. Certainly, you have certain things you're planning for the next day and things like that, but the majority of it you disconnect. And I took that to heart, and today that has worked very well for me. Going through many things that happened between coming to US and now starting the flooring business, closing it down. As anybody that would know, winding down a company that had major operations is not always very simple and can be very stressful, but the ability to disconnect is what allowed me to go through it. I know that no matter how difficult the day is, at the end of the day, I leave it where it is and I go home and enjoy my family life. And if you want to have a successful business and a successful family, you have to do that. You can't bring work home, yeah, at least in that sense, and family to work. So disconnecting is important. One of the ways I do that is actually something that I shared earlier on is singing. Singing on the way to home, my drive's about 30 minutes from the office, so it gives me a good time to go through a couple songs, worship songs, and reset. And it's difficult to be negative or down if there's certain difficulties throughout the day when you're singing worship, and that's what helps me disconnect. But when it all packs up and there are those times when it just gets a bit much, what I usually do with my wife, and she usually picks that up earlier than I do, she looks at me and says, Maxim, it's time to get into the mountains. We have a very pretty, beautiful nature here in the Pacific Northwest. Who been here knows. And we love hiking and just getting out into the mountains. So if we can't go on a quick hike, like wintertime tends to be a little bit rainy sometimes, like this year, then we'll just go to drive through the pass. And it's a drive to nowhere, just driving through the pass. But when I get into the mountains and the magnitude and majesty of them just gives me a whole different perspective. And that's what helps me reset.
That's that's very good. That's very good. Fortunate you can have a environment like that you enjoy that you want to be into. I'm in a similar situation. We live in the foothills in North Georgia, and I will tell you that my wife and I often just jump in the car, and especially in the warmer months, and put the top down and go drive on curvy, beautiful roads, and then take in the scenery. We really enjoy that. It is a way to kind of reset and refocus.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it when you see the mountains, and especially when it's warm and you have your, as you said, top down. We don't have a car with the top down, but we make do with moon roofs and things like that.
Yeah.
And getting off to some of the side roads and just standing there for a minute just does it for us.
I wonder if you could share just quickly for our audience that may not know what is Modern Estimates? What is the measure platform that you've created? Just briefly share kind of what the business is, what the platform is, what it does. I think that'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah. So Modern Estimates is the company behind the platform Measure. Measure essentially enables retailers to offer quick, detailed, branded virtual quotes to shoppers, online shoppers, and otherwise. So how it works is once a retailer signs up, they receive a unique link. It's a hyperlink they put on their website into a button. Name is something like get instant quote, something along those lines. But when a customer interacts with that, there are two steps. We call it three-step process, but really it's two-step. The third one is actually the result. It sounded better three-step process than two-step process, so we named it that. But first, starts very basic. Fill out their contact information. The next step, customer fills in information about the area they want done. In this case, flooring surfaces. So currently Measure calculates for all type of flooring surfaces. Later this year, we're going to be releasing for vertical surfaces, backsplashes, showers, but for now it's flooring surfaces. So they'll fill out the information, and really we've made it extremely simple. And that was the goal, to make it as simple as possible for the end user. So they just name the area, select a couple options from drop downs, such as what's the subfloor, what grade the area is on, what type of installation they want done, select through the drop down list, and then they take photos. So they'll take 4 photos from each corner as required by the platform and press complete. And then the rest, our model Measure takes care of everything else. So Measure will pick up on what the furniture situation is, how much of it is. They'll give a count, what the current flooring is that needs to be removed. And in just a couple seconds, it will give the shopper a what we call a preliminary quote for labor and material. So the goal of this is to alleviate 2 things that retailers deal with on daily basis. One is every retailer gets call-ins for ballparks. Customer will call and say, "Hey, I'm not ready for an in-home estimate. I just want a ballpark." They might say that right off the bat. Oftentimes, they'll spend 30, 40 minutes on the phone only to tell the retailer that. And the other one is essentially the same thing, but with more steps. Customer will call in, sound serious. Retailer will send out an estimator after a 30, 40-minute drive and an additional 30 minutes in the home. They'll find out the same thing. They're only shopping around. And it's more so now than it ever was before with everything else going on. So Measure effectively solves that by enabling the retailer to effortlessly see the project scope, the full work scope of a potential project, and the photos from multiple angles well ahead of ever visiting the customer home or spending a minute on phone. If a customer calls into the store, retailer has 2 choices. They can say, "No, we don't give over the phone quotes," and potentially lose a valuable customer. Or they can take the chance and spend 30, 40 minutes and only to find out that this is what they thought it is just a shopper, right? But it's kind of a flip of a coin. Measure gives them a third option that's much more reliable, the ability to tell the customer, "Hey, we do give virtual quotes. Go on our website. It's a very quick 3-step process, and you will have your preliminary quote, and then we'll be in touch from there." And then the retailer sees all that information on their side. They see the square footage, the photos, and is able to decide, do they want to engage with this customer, or is this, given how far out it is and based on the situation, maybe the furniture situation. I mean, anybody that's been in flooring retail has those projects where they walked in and wish they saw photos beforehand because they would have been running the opposite direction quicker than speed of light. So this gives them the ability to do just that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was at a conference this past year, and there was a keynote speaker. He was talking about AI search and how consumers today are using AI and how it's different than SEO type parameters for Google search and so forth. But one of the things he said, he's from a different industry, and it's in the construction industry, and in virtually across the board, business owners in the construction, they will not do a online quote, or they will not do an over the phone quote. It just is anathema, right? Where we will not do it. And he decided, hey, I'm going to find a way to be able to give my online, right, shoppers, people that come to my website, be able to give them a idea of what their project might cost. Because that is the number one thing that the consumer is looking for as they begin considering a project in their home. What's it going to cost? And to your point, you there's a lot of engagement that takes place typically with the company for flooring, for example, in order to get a quote. I mean, there's a lot of engagement that takes place, but maybe they just want to know, hey, what's the ballpark going to be? Is this something I want to pursue now, or is it outside the, scope of what I'm able to afford or want to spend, or whatever it may? They just want that information. And so he did it on his platform, and he was able to give consumers, and he shared with the group that their sales went through the roof when they started doing that, because now the customers had an idea of what the range is going to be for their project, and they were willing to make contact and start moving forward on a project with sincerity and with purpose. And so he saw the results absolutely transform their business. And in the industry he was in, which is actually the pool business, said that they went from their little company I think at Virginia or wherever, became the number one national provider for pools, and that was a key ingredient. So for our industry, for the flooring dealers that are listening today, that that obviously, and I was part of that set as well, that we simply would not go out on that limb of giving a customer any kind of an estimate, because they're going to bring that back to you when you actually go to the job site, you see something, it changes everything, right? And so then then you have this separation. Right now they're not happy with what the final estimate was because you said it was right. And so that's usually how it turns out. But now you can have with AI, you can actually cover a lot of those missing pieces that you normally wouldn't in a conversation, and be able to give them, with your platform, that consumer an instant idea of, hey, this is what's going to cost based on the products that you're looking at putting in your floor. So this is an important thing. I think can be a game changer in the industry for flooring store owners that want to connect with, in a really affirmative way, that consumer that starts online on their website, and capture them and their attention and really as a customer, and engage in a meaningful ways. I thought it was very interesting when you shared with me, several months ago, kind of how this platform works and what it is. And so I would say I'm an advocate. I think it makes sense. I think it's good for the industry, good for the dealer, for the individual dealer who is looking to grow their business. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit about that, uh, your company or your platform, or what it does. And I guess looking ahead, and kind of shift gears then, as you look ahead. Now you've been in this industry for a while, and obviously you in two different, the mechanical installation piece of it, and now the technology piece of it as well. What excites you, maybe ahead for the industry that you see? Is there a trend or something developing, either in technology that maybe you see, or something else that you might say, hey, this is something to look forward to?
Yes, I mean, it might sound a little bit biased, but technology is really what excites me because all the advancements in technology, AI, and just technology in general that AI empowers. Not everything is necessarily AI, but AI empowers quite a few things. And the future is very bright and exciting for the flooring industry. A lot of things have become possible, and the things that are yet to come to fruition that I know that my company is working on, and partners in the industry that we constantly consult with are working on, excite me quite a bit about specifically what's in store for the flooring industry. I think that as the landscape changes and more businesses, whether that be flooring or other businesses, are realizing that whether they want it or not, their customer base is changing. How customers engage, to your point earlier, of the AI search and whatnot. We've discussed this when we met at Tice. A lot of searches are going towards AI platform searches, and the search itself is nothing unique. AI really searches the same way as Google does, except it gives you a specific answer rather than a list of pages. But what it does change is the mentality of a shopper, how they're actually searching, the keywords, the phrases, and their approach to shopping changes. And so the results they're seeing changes. And seeing the flooring industry starting to keep up with that, starting to accelerate in that direction is very exciting for me. When I first got into the flooring industry, I was shocked how behind everything else it is. It felt like we did not know about computers, that those exist. We did not know about emails and things like that, and it wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking mid 2019 when I started the installation company. And before that, so in the delivery company, when I was interacting with these stores, it was shocking to me. I can't tell you how many stores that have operated for decades before me, and we delivered their product, and I would say, oh, send me an email. And they're like, we don't use email. Just, I'll call you. And I would help these stores, set up their emails and show them how simple it is. So seeing all of that accelerate in the recent years and being passionate for the industry as a whole really excites me for what's in store and the possibilities that are coming in just 2026.
Well, I appreciate, your passion for it. I will admit, I have a passion for the flooring industry. Um, I have now for 37 years or so. I really do. So I like to talk to people that share that. Can you tell our listeners where they can find a measure platform or modern estimates?
Yeah, so it's our website, modernestimates.com. And it's a simple process. You do have the option of booking a live demo where one of our technicians, or you might be surprised with a personal interview. I take some of those calls, but basically we'll go over how the platform works, answer any questions the client may have, and then we'll walk them through a sign up. For the more tax savvy, Measure is designed to be very simple to use on both the end user and the retailer. So there is a self sign up process. It's very straightforward, very simple. So for the more tech savvy, more than welcome to just start a free trial. And, our goal with starting Modern Estimates and the platform Measure is not to add just one more thing the retailer has to do and this subscription that they can, be without and things like that, and then they try it doesn't work for them or for their client base, they're locked into a year contract and they're kind of dragged into that. When we started Measure, our goal was to be as simple as possible. People that find value in it, and we believe in the value that it presents to the flooring industry, we said to ourselves, if we believe in it and we're confident in the value, then we should let retailers decide for themselves whether they want to stay on it or not. The sign up process is simple. If it doesn't work, the unsubscription process is just as simple. If they don't want to interact with a quote unquote salesperson, they don't have to. If they do want a demo, there's a quick way to sign up for one of those. It takes about 15 minutes. There's a calendar they can sign up for and get more details.
Very good. Appreciate you sharing that. And Maxim, I appreciate you joining me today. So Maxim is a founder of Modern Estimates and their AI-driven estimating platform called Measure that you can have on your company website. So thanks for joining us today on What's Underfoot. Maxim, I appreciate it. And for more conversations designed to support our members and strengthen the industry, follow American Home Services Group, Commercial USA on LinkedIn, and American Home Services Group and Commercial USA on Instagram or at our website, which is AmericanHomeServicesGroup.com. So again, thank you so much, Maxim. And for our listeners, thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to having another conversation soon. Have a good day.